Hello friends, it's good to see you. I'm Aiscahill and of course you're welcome here. I'm gonna do a book tag today and I can't believe that it is that time. It is the quarter year crisis book tag and I remember quite clearly doing this book tag last year and here we are still knocking around. Anyway, so the first question is how many books have you read so far this year? So this encompasses between the 1st of January and the 31st of March, and in that period I read 22 books. According to Goodreads, that was 9,917 pages, which means that I'm averaging about 450 pages a book. I've read some really long ones this year and some quite short ones as well, but I feel like I've been erring slightly on the longer side this year, which I'm not surprised about and I'm not complaining about. So question 2 is, have you read a book that you think might be a favourite for the whole year? Or if not, is there anything that came close? So no, I actually haven't read a 5-star book this year. Disclaimer, I'm a bit of a stingy 5-star reader, so I kind of wiped my Goodreads in 2018 and started again from scratch, so we're going from there. And in that period I've given 12 books 5 stars, so I'm really stingy with my 5 stars. There have been no 5 stars, not surprisingly, quite a few 4 stars, and a lot of those have been Robin Hobb books, so the Farseer trilogy books, which I've been ploughing through, been really enjoying. They're incredibly long books, and also Brandon Sanderson books as well, so the Stormlight archive books I've been kind of ploughing my way through as well in anticipation of the 5th one being released this December. Otherwise, off the top of my head, I gave A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon 4 stars. I don't know, I felt like I gave that 4 stars because it was a really well written book, not necessarily because I loved it. And Circe by Madeline Miller I gave 4 stars as well. But nothing has really tickled me this year, or I suppose made me bawl my eyes out, because that's generally the sign of a book that I'm really enjoying. Okay, the next question is your least favourite book of the year so far, and that probably goes to A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I listened to it on audio and I remember thinking, like, this is just going on forever. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I had read it physically, but I just couldn't get into it. I just thought it went on too long. I thought that maybe if about 200 pages were cut off, it probably would have been as good as it is, and I wouldn't have been so disillusioned by the fact that I had to read so many bloody pages. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. Question number 4 is, which genre is my most read genre so far in this quarter? And that was something that I did have to check out, because I was originally kind of always a literary fiction gal, but in the last, kind of since I set up this channel, like really the last year, I've kind of really gone hell for leather in terms of reading fantasy books. They've been my most read genres, but I read one more fantasy book than I did literary fiction, so fantasy out in front. Not really surprised, to be honest. Question 5 is a book that surprised you. I'm gonna give that one to Asleep by Banana Yoshimoto. This book has probably been on my TBR for the longest time. Didn't even really know what it was about, but I read Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto maybe 3 or 4 years ago and I loved that book. I loved the author's tone, I loved the sparseness of the storytelling, I just really enjoyed it. It really hit something in me in a way that I just can't describe, but I loved it. So I picked up Asleep, which is a really quite short book, and it contains 3 sort of short stories written by this author, and I didn't love it and I was really disappointed and surprised. So not a good surprise, unfortunately. And then next up is a book that has been released in 2024 that you haven't read yet. So there've been quite a few, but I actually have bought 2 new releases. They are in the post on the way at the moment. So this year I've really committed to not buying books and to actually reading the books on my shelves, which I thought was going to be really hard. But there's something really satisfying about actually like getting the number on my physical TBR down, and I'm really proud to say I've gotten it down to 99, so it's finally below 100. Of course, when these 2 books arrive, we're back up to 101. I've actually only bought 4 books, including these 2 books, so far this year, which it's April now, so if we're only counting January to March, it was only 2 books. And the reason that I bought those 2 books was because I got 2 free €10 vouchers for a bookshop that had to be used within a certain period of time, so I just picked 2 random books off my TBR and bought them. But less about those and more about the 2 books, the 2 new releases that I've just bought. So the first one is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo, who needs absolutely no introduction, and has written the Shadow and Bone series, has written, I was about to say City of Crows, I had to have a peek there, has written Six of Crows, those books, and this is her first adult standalone. Actually, I think it's her first standalone, full stop. And I'm seeing it kind of everywhere. I just said, screw it, I really want to read it, I'm going to buy it. And I did say that this year I'm going to buy some new releases. And the other book then is a book by Sinead Gleeson. So she's an Irish author, and she wrote Constellations, which is a book of essays. And the essays are kind of related to things like the body, illness, motherhood, living in contemporary Ireland, sadness, feminism. It is one of, if not my most favourite essay collections of all time. And so this is Sinead Gleeson's debut novel, and I'm really excited to read it, so I bought that alongside Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar, and they both should be here in a couple of days, and I'll probably read them both quite immediately, because never mind my TBR, right? And then the next one is A Goal That You're Succeeding At in terms of reading for this year. I have been reading a bit more slowly this year. Yes, of course, I've been devouring books, but I think last year I might have gotten a little bit caught up in like, oh, I want to read as many books as possible, whereas this year I just want to read books on my shelves, and I don't want to worry about the numbers because I want to be happy to read the long books. I actually really think that I prefer longer books over shorter books, provided that they're good, because obviously if you're enjoying it, you get to stay with it longer. And so I've been reading some longer books and taking my time with them, and not getting frustrated that it's taking me so long to read them, and being annoyed that I haven't picked up a shorter book. Just now in April, I took 2 weeks to read one book. I took pretty much the same to read one of the Stormlight Archive books as well, and I'm okay with that. I'm happy enough. I read 4 books in March and I feel perfectly content with that. Like, that's absolutely fine, and I'm happy enough to truck along as I have been. I'm reading some books that I've really been getting into, and I feel like that's kind of the point. The next question then is a goal that maybe you're not doing so well at. One thing that I did want to get better at was keeping notes while I read, because when it comes to filming monthly wrap-ups, then I find I'm like, oh, apparently I read this book but I remember nothing about it, because that's how my brain works. I just feel like my memory is not the best, and that's fine. And I'm supposed to be countering that by taking some notes just to help myself along. But so far, at the end of every month, I find myself sitting down and having to look up what the books I've read have been about, which is not great. And it's something that I do need to work on. But look, it's a small thing. I'm not beating myself up over it either. And that's that. Short and sweet. Honestly, I had planned something different for this week, but it's been a week, pals. It's really been a week, and I'm not feeling the best myself at the moment. The disability has been really disabilitying this week as well. I'm struggling with quite a bit more pain than I might normally be. I know the normal amount of pain is maybe none, but that's not my normal. So I'm just going to say more than my normal, and not fun. Of course, I've been reading away, but I will say I've been lying down a lot more than normal. And what happens when I'm lying down when I'm reading is I fall asleep, because I'm also a sleepy gal. So I've been reading like 20 pages a day, which is fine. In terms of reading, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of failing at reading. But of course I'm not. I'm living my life according to how I know best, and if I have to rest, I have to rest. I like to gaslight myself into thinking that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me, and then when I get hit quite hard, it absolutely knocks the wind out of my sails. So yeah, that's that. I hope you're doing a lot better than I am. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate you being here. And if you want to answer any of these questions down below in the comments, please feel free. I'd love to know your answers. Or if you have your own channel, absolutely do this tag. I might be a little bit late doing it, so you might be a little bit later, but I'll still watch. That's that. Thanks for watching. I hope you're taking care. I hope you're minding yourself, and I hope you're doing really well, enjoying spring, and I'll chat to you next week for another video.